The criminal drama Florida Man on Netflix takes viewers on a wild ride as it searches for a hidden treasure. Mike, who was born and raised in Florida, made every effort to emigrate. He returns years later in quest of Deli, the gangster Mike's girlfriend whom he owes money to. He decides to help Deli find the gold coins so that they may flee after she tells him about the potential hoard that could be worth 9 figures. However, when more participants join their plans, things turn sour. What happens at the show's conclusion is as follows. Spoilers ahead. Florida Man plot synopsis. Mike has once had a gambling problem. He sought treatment for his addiction before losing his career and wife, but not before. He is currently in debt to Moss Yankov, a criminal, and in love with Deli, Moss' girlfriend. Deli takes off on her own after pleading with Mike to come along. Moss sends Mike to Florida to find her there and bring her back as she's gone there. The last place Mike wants to go is Florida, but with the prospect of having a significant portion of his debt forgiven. He pursues Deli. When he tracks her down, she tells him that Gil sought to exchange a buried treasure for his life before Moss killed him. She is determined to retrieve the gold chest and ride off into the distance with it since she thinks Gil wasn't lying. But she can't handle it by herself. Deli asks his father for assistance when Mike at first refuses to indulge in her fantasy. By the time Mike realizes the gold is real, Sonny, his father, has agreed to the entire scheme. He doesn't believe Sonny, and he fears that his father will steal all the gold and defraud them. Iris, Mike's ex-wife, follows him to Florida in the meantime in an effort to learn more about Moss and get him arrested. Florida Man ending. Who has the gold? A Spanish ship carrying a chest of gold money drowned a couple centuries ago close to the Florida coast. Years after discovering the penny in a fish as a child, Mike made the connection between it and his gambling addiction at a support group. Gil Franco also belonged to that group. Gil, a compulsive gambler, was compelled to seek out the wealth. In the hopes that it would help him, he took this chance, and it worked. He discovered the gold, but Moss discovered him before he could cash it in. He attempted to inform the mobster about it, but Moss dismissed it as another gambler's ruse to buy time. Therefore, he executed Gil. Deli overheard the exchange when Moss was torturing Gil. She made the decision to travel to Florida and obtain the gold after she fled. But Mike followed her before she had a chance to investigate. She pretended to be dead in an effort to get him off her trail. However, when things didn't go as planned, she had to tell him what was going on. Deli first assumed Gil had hidden the gold in his boat. Mike begins to think that there was never any gold there when they don't discover anything. Then, though, he learns about Gil's truck. Gil named a street after Deli overheard their chat. Gil's truck was parked there and dragged away, which Mike finds out when he follows the trail. It is currently at the bottom of the sinkhole that the city plans to fill, giving Mike and Deli only a few days to escape. Deli informs Sonny of the scheme, which turns out to be a mistake since Mike had assumed that his father would want the gold for himself. Furthermore, he was correct. Moss, Deli, and Mike eventually drive to the location and pull the truck out of the sinkhole after all other strategies have failed. When they open it, not a single gold coin is to be found inside. Moss anticipated this, but Mike and Deli are surprised. Moss tries to kill Mike now that he is no longer useful to him. But Deli steps in. Moss is killed by gunfire, and she urges Mike to flee with her. Mike decides to go to Iris because she was shot during the confrontation at the dock. After a few weeks, everything calms down. Iris begins working with Moss' sister after being employed by the FBI. After divorcing her husband, Mike's sister begins a new life. When the real owner shows up, Clara and her husband lose the motel that was never really theirs. Mike is running his club while Sonny is in jail for his part in the movement of drugs throughout the state. Mike thinks the gold was a fantasy for a while and forgets about it. The television news, however, causes a drastic adjustment. One of Sonny's men, Buzz, is discovered dead in the river, having been slammed by a python. According to the claim, Buzz was sporting alligator print sneakers. Mike recalls that Buzz had a strong desire to purchase the shoes and an airboat with the proceeds from the gold. He received the money because he possessed both, which indicates that the gold was discovered. Sonny had defrauded Mike and Deli of their portion, as was expected. The night Butch blew himself up close to the chapel, he, Buzz, and Ray extracted the gold. Sonny admits that he never intended to inform Mike about the gold since he doesn't want his kid to leave when Mike confronts him. Just when Mike believed he and his father could mend their relationship, it isn't good enough for him, and he returns to disliking him. The gold is once more available for the taking now that Ray, Buzz, and Sonny are dead and Sonny is in jail. But Mike finds that Deli has already recovered it. Do Mike and Deli end up together? Mike has nothing left after Deli, Iris, and the gold are all gone. Up until Patsy reminds him that he still has time to hunt for Deli. Even though she didn't tell him where she was going, she must have left some sort of hint. He only had to wait for it. One of their boats is missing from the pier, as Mike observes. Deli might be involved, according to his suspicion. He locates the boat, where he discovers her and the gold. She found the gold in what manner? Deli decided to leave town after realizing they had been on a fruitless search when the truck showed up empty. She must have realized the connection that Mike did 3 weeks later, though, at some point along the route. They prepared to pull the vehicle out of the sinkhole after noticing water on the equipment. Later, Mike understood that the water indicated the equipment had been used previously. Knowing that Sonny had taken the gold, Deli must also have come to that conclusion. Given that it had just been a day, she realized that Sonny and his men couldn't have had to transfer the gold around yet since it was in a truck. Where was the easiest and safest place to hide the gold? It's still inside the boat, where she thought Gil had hidden it. Deli had no need to bother about transportation, which was excellent. She could smuggle the boat off and run. She works in this manner. She is relieved that Mike pursued her because she anticipated someone would do so soon. He stares at her and smiles when she queries if he came for her or the gold. He had actually come looking for her. The discovery of the gold was merely a welcome bonus. Sonny is the only person who is aware of the gold, and even if he were to cheat him, he wouldn't do anything to hurt his son. We can therefore conclude that Deli and Mike have a happy ending. Thanks for watching. If you liked this video, make sure to like and subscribe for more.